Vasilios and Jason here with another video. This time we're doing a Careers Page Teardown. Jason, are you ready?
Back at you again. Here we go.
Do you know who we're doing this week?
I heard rumor is Netflix.
It is Netflix. Exactly.
All right.
It's Netflix. So get excited. Get ready. Here we go. Let's dive in. So we're here at Netflix's Careers Page. A little bit different than what we saw with LinkedIn. I will say right off the bat, I'm biased. I know Netflix and I love Netflix, the product. I think a lot of people do. I'm guessing you do too, right?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So I'm biased, but ain't that the truth? Isn't that how it's going to be for most people who land on Netflix's Careers Page?
Yeah, nice little advantage you got there, being one of the most popular consumer products on the planet.
Truly. And it gives you a little bit of a sheen, a little glow of excellence. There's room for error on your careers page, for better or worse, and your culture and how you depict yourself, just because people love your product. So let's keep that in mind as we go through. Let's start right at the top again, and we'll go top to bottom and then through some of the other pages. Thoughts right off the top, Jason?
Yeah, at first I wasn't sure if I liked the big, I can go directly to jobs here, search by keyword, but sometimes that's what people want to do. Just take me to the jobs. Are you hiring for my skill set? I'm in New York, for example, and I do sales. Do you have anything that fits that description? So let me get there right away if I want to. So I actually, at first I didn't like it, but I kind of do like the search bar. It's there to get you where you want to go quickly if you need to get there, and that's where you want to go. But I think they do, if you scroll down a little bit, culture is front and center here. And once you get past that, which is, I'm sure we'll talk about that in more detail. So that was my initial reaction there.
I think this gets back to the fact that people know Netflix. You don't have to explain what Netflix is or what they do, unlike a lot of B2B companies, right? Which even LinkedIn, as we talked about in the previous episode, people probably don't know LinkedIn's B2B products, which is what they would be working on potentially, right? And people know Netflix. Moving into the sort of the next secondary part of the careers page here, you can start to see some of those culture things come through, right? The first thing after that, the top of the fold, is about their culture. I love that. I like putting your culture front and center. It can sometimes seem like platitudes, so I'm curious to see how much they go into more detail and actually bring out some of the humans at Netflix to talk to you, right, on their careers page. But so far, I'm sort of waiting and seeing here. Not a bad start.
Yeah, I mean, quick backstory. That there's the whole thing about Netflix's sort of culture memo that they came out with, or culture deck, or whatever they called it at the time. But very, very early on, I think Reed Hastings, the founder and CEO, created that. I'm not out in Silicon Valley, so I don't know for sure, but I do hear that was sort of the gold standard for culture when it came out, and sort of a lot of startups sort of pawned their approach to it. It wasn't like curiosity, excellence. It wasn't these just vague words. They dug in a little bit more to, here's what we expect from people that we hire, and it was a little bit beefier than putting these values, one word value statements up. It dug in a little deeper, and it sort of influenced, I think, culture more broadly across Silicon Valley, at least early on. I wonder if it's still the case today, but it was pretty famous when it came out, the culture deck. I remember hearing a lot about it.
There's a big focus on the product, because I think a lot of, again, for the same reason that we were biased at the beginning, and I admitted my bias, people are going to be drawn to the product part of the business, because that's how they know Netflix. And so they really double down on that. You can see, just to skip ahead a little bit, if you click see what's next, you can see a whole section here. Yes, it's at netflixinvestor.com. But if you're actually interested in the future of the business and what Netflix is trying to do strategically, they've got a whole, what's essentially a strategic manifesto here. And I can see how someone who's intellectually rigorous, who's curious about, the strategy of the company, where it's going, how it's competing, it's all right here. Obviously, it's at an overview level, but it's there, right? And how many times do you see that right on a careers page?
I wonder if it came about with all this competition they're facing, right? Apple coming out with their own streaming services, Disney probably pulling all the Marvel stuff, all the Disney content off of Netflix. I mean, it's a much more cutthroat environment over the last probably 12 months than it's ever been. So I wonder if this was always there, or is it a reaction to people saying, hey, how's Netflix going to survive? What's the future with all this competition now, that they didn't really have for the first 10 years or so? Pretty fascinating.
You can see some other stuff here where they actually start to get some of the voices out. And this is what I was looking at from the beginning. I'm guessing you were as well, Jason. And you can start to see there's a few things here. One thing actually that I found interesting, I don't know if you listened to any of it, but their podcast, We Are Netflix, where they talk about all things Netflix culture and sort of behind the scenes at Netflix. It's a podcast, which is ironic for Netflix, but I listened to a good chunk of it, and I found it to be really well produced and sort of raw, sort of very much behind the scenes.
Did you find employees being sort of spotlighted there? As I haven't had a chance to listen to it, but do they put employees as guests on there and get their perspective? Or is it really just top brass,
No,
tooting their own horn?
No, that's the former. They actually put out employees, and they talk about really nitty-gritty details of their day-to-day. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah. One quick side note here. I mean, it seems like, you probably have a huge team, a huge company, probably a huge budget here for recruiting. You can put all this content out, but actually this very small local gym that I belong to does a really great job of running their own podcasts, right? So you think you might have to have a ton of resources to do this, but you really don't. You think about a local gym here with probably maybe 50 members, and they do a good job of spotlighting their new members on a podcast, and it's front and center on the website. So when you're reviewing as a new member, do I want to be joining this website, or, do I want to be working here? You get to hear the people who are impacted by the business, right? The actual customers talking about their experience. They call it a down the alley podcast or something, and they do a great job of spotlighting what the experience is like through a podcast. So a great medium that I don't think you have to be, a global powerhouse, with an unlimited budget to do. I've seen smaller companies doing it, like a local gym. So, small companies listen to this. You can do a podcast too. You don't need to be Netflix. So
I guess all you need is, what do you need? A microphone and a recording device.
That's right. Yeah.
And then you upload it. So yeah, it's a really good point. And obviously you just have to pick some employees and ask them if you can pick their brain and interview them for 10, 15, 20 minutes, whatever it is about their job. I think you'll find that people are more often than not pretty willing to talk about what they do, especially if they know that it's in service of, hiring and recruiting, illuminating what it's like to work on their particular team, for instance, right? Especially if they have a lot of open jobs. That's a compelling ask, I think, for any employee.
Yeah, it makes you feel more important, right? More a part of the organization, the culture, right? It gets you more bought in. They care about my experience. They're going to sit down and interview me for 30 minutes about it. That's awesome, right?
Yeah,
I'm already drinking the Kool-Aid if that's the case.
I personally love the idea of breaking down a company into teams, because if you think about it, the way people are going to be operating is going to be largely within a team. So when you break down your company like this into little team buckets, it makes it a much more easy sort of entry point for folks to get to know your company and to explore it. I'm going to guess that if you click into these, you're going to see some content, I'm hoping, about these teams. So should we go into one of these?
I wonder. I hope so too, but it looks like it might just be jobs.
I see the jobs ticker under there, and it makes me a little bit nervous.
Don't keep me in suspense.
Right.
Give it to me.
Well, let's go into creative production and find out. So it's a jobs listing page with some culture, some softer side to it at the very top. It's very small, but it looks like they have one of the podcast episodes that talks about this team in particular, and a little bit of a blurb on what they do. So not bad. A little bit something more visual, I think, would help here. Actually having some folks here, maybe having a short video, 60 seconds on each, 5 people from this department.
Yeah, it's not bad. I've certainly seen other smaller, probably less resource companies do it better, but it's respectable.
Let's keep going then. We'll go locations. Let's see what we've got here. Global company, so they're putting out they're just listing their locations. I guess if I click on Seoul, South Korea, it takes me to that's interesting. It takes me to a page with the job postings for Seoul, but they do have, this is in their Seoul office, this video, Netflix APAC. Yeah, so this is I'm going to guess there you go. All right, so they talked a little bit about Korean culture and the Korean office. All right, so let's keep going to Life at Netflix. If I click on Life at Netflix, the header doesn't do anything, but if I click on We Are Netflix, it takes me to, all right, so it lists the podcast that we mentioned earlier, and it starts to tell people's stories in more detail, facing my anti-comfort zone, again, sort of pushing yourself to the limits, to the edge, growing, culture myths at Netflix, and then a link out to more of their blogs. It's got a lot of content. So I like that. And it's got different kinds of content, which is great. I feel like I'm hopping around a lot. I might lose my place here, but it's really just one click and you're into a blog post that tells someone's story, which is great.
Yeah. I do feel compared to the last one we did, the LinkedIn one, I think you got to individual people's stories maybe a little bit quicker and faster on the LinkedIn careers page, if I remember correctly. I mean, you can get there here and see the stories, but it's a couple more clicks and levels deeper, I think, than we saw.
You're right. We're within the third tab, first sub-tab, and you're scrolling a little bit. Let's keep going. Inclusion and diversity. Thoughts on inclusion and diversity here, Jason? I know we're seeing some of the similar stuff, right, that we saw here that you mentioned. You mentioned employee resource groups, and it's great that they call them out, but do they tell stories from those people?
I like the big video there. I didn't dig into that. It looks like it's a talk from one of their, probably a chief diversity officer type. Maybe did a keynote or something, I would imagine. So that's great. But I don't see individual people stories attached to here, which I would like to see, right? Clicking into some of these, a little more data there, which is actually nice. You do see the people stories down below, so that's good. I mean, so that's a little bit better, I'd say, than the LinkedIn one, having some of the people stories here. Again, attaching individual people stories to these, I think, are the most impactful way to do it. Obviously with high production value. LinkedIn.
I was gonna say.
I mean, because it's Netflix, excuse me. Yeah, so to be expected, I suppose.
Right.
You're not gonna get raw, uncut videos without high production quality here, which I think is fine because they're a content company, right?
That's cool, man. Then you start to see some of these stories. I love that they do that, and these are actually emotionally impactful. It's good storytelling. So I kind of go back to your comment, which is, why do I have to dig onto the second sub-tab under the third tab at the bottom of that page to find these? These are pretty cool. So I'd put these on, and they're moving. So I'd put these a little bit higher up into the site.
Yeah.
But hey, they're there. So that's it. Let's do a quick wrap up. Jason, what are your sort of one good thing, one bad thing wrap up here for Netflix, like we did with LinkedIn? What do you think?
For me, one good thing in anything in life in general, right? I mean, you have certain advantages, so play to your strengths where you have them, right? Even as a job seeker, there's certain things you're strong at, so play to those, right? So content, I mean, is their business, right? And this thing is content rich. So, I mean, they're even leveraging their consumer-facing content here on the career side. So they even have a We Are Netflix social media accounts across every major platform. If you scroll down to the bottom, Facebook, Twitter, those are all dedicated culture social accounts. So, creating content and promoting it out there is what they're good at. I guess the one downside, it's a lot to consume here. I mean, as a job seeker, am I going to be going through all this content? I can feel overwhelmed.
I thought the teams area it's a little bit of a missed opportunity. I thought there's a lot of room to build out and make each of these pages richer and to tell the story of that team. Some of the content of the people, focused on the people, really, really powerful. So that's a good thing. Kind of buried a little bit on some of these secondary, tertiary sub-tabs. Overall, I think they capitalize on the Netflix glow, the halo effect of having a really powerful consumer brand, but they don't rest on those laurels. You can see that even these guys are putting in effort. Well, that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed the Netflix Careers Page Teardown. A beefy one here. We went a little bit long, but hopefully it was good to see what one of the giants have been doing here with their careers page and how they're capitalizing on their brand equity. Until next time, thanks for watching, everyone.